be. So I'm so happy to see you all. Lisa, thank you so much for always being such a bright light in the calls, just having all this great information that we love to hear because it helps us to serve our teams better. It helps us to serve our customers better when we understand what we have to offer and when we're reminded of what we have to offer. So, all right, first things first, I'm going to talk from this because I can't screen share yet because I didn't log in onto my PowerPoint on this laptop. So I will get that up in a minute. But we're going to talk to you about a couple of things tonight. First and foremost, we're going to really quickly talk about what's happening in June, just in case you don't know, but you probably have read your emails or seen the posts in the team page and know what's happening. And then Lisa's going to talk about balance. And I think you're going to talk about the difference between block and balance and like how to use those, which I have to tell you every single time that every single time that somebody's talking about those products, I learned something that I didn't know before. It's crazy. Like over the years, that is one of the products that I can honestly say when it first came out, I was like, okay, cool. But I didn't really know what it could do. And I just told Lisa that I kid you not, I actually had a dream about this product like several days, like a week ago. I had a dream about it. And I thought it was so weird because I don't dream about our products. You'd think that I would, but I don't. And I don't know if this was some subliminal clue that I was supposed to get that, like, hey, dummy, you should be using this all the time. So I now am because I go through fits and spurts where I remember that we have it and I use it, but I just tend to sort of forget. So I'm sure I'm going to hear things tonight where I'm again kind of going, why don't I use this every single day? All the time. So let's start with that. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the newest book, personal development that I'm reading that I think you guys will love. And I'm going to tell you what I'm getting it from it. And you're welcome to read it with me if you think that it sounds like something that's up your alley. Sound good? All right, Lisa, you're on.
Okay. Did you make me a co-host so I can screen share? I'll get Marianne. And you're muted. I am co-host. Perfect. Okay, let me screen share her. I thought I turned all my notifications off so you guys wouldn't hear all that's what I was doing. I was sitting here going to every thread that always sends a lot to turn them off so you guys wouldn't have to listen to that. So let me share my screen. We are going to talk mainly about balance because I don't know if they meant to do this, but they sent it out at the beginning of the month as the product of the season. And I was like, wait, like we still have another month of Vital Biome, don't we?
I know, I got so confused. I almost messaged you as I was putting my slides together. I went, wait, is it Vital Biome or is it Balance? Am I off? So I'm so glad you said that.
and it's all the stuff said. So I'm going by the assumption that when we start the new season in July, it's going to be Balance.
Yeah.
So regardless, it's a good product to learn about. So we thought, well, we'll just do that tonight. It goes all along with all the new stuff that we're going to talk about. So let me go ahead and screen share because you guys know that. Oh, and I just had a little funny panic moment. Guess what I did? I put all my slides together and the very last one, I just realized that I got busy at the office and the very last one is not complete. So when we get there, it's going to be off the cuff. Like you guys know, I hate to do off the cuff stuff. So we shall see how this goes. So basically I wanted to talk to you about balance, but you can't talk about balance without talking about block because they're very, very similar. They do a lot of the same things, but they are a little different. And I think it's really important to know those subtle differences so that you can make the proper recommendation. Just like we try to do most times, I want to start with just kind of an overview of why this product is a really great product. And I'll talk about it a little bit more than just these couple of little statistics, but I always like to understand why it's needed. Like, why are we just throwing out products to have something new or to, add something to the product line or have people buy more stuff? Or is there really a need for it in our society? And if you look at some of the statistics, some of these part of them came from the back office, but I updated them because when I went ahead and looked at the most recent statistics today for the average consumption of sugar per year, it had gone up. I think the back office says 156 pounds and it's now 180. So we're not going in the right direction, you guys. And if you look back in 1800 and 1900, it was 18 pounds and 90 pounds. And now we're at 180 pounds. So the more we go in that direction, the sicker our society gets. We know the connection between sugar and your immune function. We know the effect that it has on your gut health, which of course affects everything, especially immunity. So this is a really, really important product for a variety of reasons. It does not give you the ability to eat more sugar. I just want to make that very clear from the get-go because we're going to start talking about what it does in a minute. And I want to make it very clear that it's a tool, but it's not one that you should use to just eat indiscriminately and just have the second or third piece of cake or eat sugar every day and all this stuff. But I think it's really interesting that the recommendation is that sugar not be more than 10% of your total calories a day, but 50 over 50, I think it's 58 when I look, 58% of Americans actually exceed that. And they have about 20% of their daily calories is refined sugar. And that's 25 teaspoons on average. And if you look at that last little bullet there, that is the recommended amount is 6 teaspoons for a female and 9 for a male. Yet on average, Americans have 25 teaspoons a day. And if you look at any of the graphics that float around about the amount of sugar that's in a bottle of Coke or that we, throw in our coffee, I've watched, people I know just dump like packet after packet after packet of sugar in their iced tea. And you realize that it doesn't seem like a lot at the moment, but when you add it up throughout the day, it's a lot. And sugar has an effect on your body. Last thing I'll say about this and the importance of it, regardless of the source. Like obviously, fruit sugar is so much better for you than processed sugar, but it still has an effect on your gut. So if you're going to have sugar or sweet things, get it from natural sources, honey, fruit, things like that. But the more you do that's processed, the more difficult it's going to be for your body. So basically, both Balance and Block do these things, and these are directly from the back office, from either the product information sheet for Balance, and then Block really doesn't have a product information sheet. It has a it said science review or something like that at the top. It kind of looks like an old product information sheet, but they both do these 4 main things. They help minimize unwanted blood sugar spikes, helps to reduce absorption of carbs and sugars, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Maintains blood glucose levels already at the normal range, and of course that's the standard line for almost all our products. Maintains blood pressure at the normal range. So if you have a really strong issue in either direction, they're not going to say this is going to help that. It reduces calorie intake and supports weight management goals, which makes sense. I mean, that's basically why most of our people take it. So how do they work? They're both kind of similar in that as well, because they're basically interrupting the job of the digestive enzymes, these 2 that I listed here, that help to break them down. And when they're broken down into smaller components, then your body can absorb them. And when your body absorbs them, it stores it as fat. But if your body can't break them down into smaller components, it can't absorb them and they get excreted. So both of these will block up to 48% of the carbs and sugars of your largest meal of the day. When you take them, and a little bit about how they work is a little different. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So let's get specific about Balance. One of the slides is going to show you the comparison between Block and Balance, and then it'll talk about the 4 ingredients of Balance and the 4 ingredients of Block. I mean, the 3 ingredients of Block. But I'm not going to go into the details of Block ingredients, although with the exception of brown seaweed, they're pretty much you're going to see pretty similar. So let's talk specifically about Balance, since that is the product of the month starting next month, the product of the season. So these are the 4. I don't want to sit here and read all of them to you, but I wanted you to be to see them. White kidney bean, common bean extract, cinnamon bark, and mulberry leaf extract. I think they're all really bright ingredients to have been chosen for the purposes they were chosen. So for example, the white kidney bean just basically slows the release of glucose from complex carbs. It's really part of that whole enzymatic process that we just talked about. Then the common bean extract is a slower process than the white kidney bean in the way that it works. So that's why Balance needs to be taken or should be best taken right before a meal. Now, Balance is going to work anytime you take it, but for best results, it's best taken 30 minutes before a meal or with your meal. Like you forget it and you're halfway through the meal, you can still take it, but it's still is going to have a better effect that way. Cinnamon bark, I think this is really interesting. It does have polyphenols in it, and the polyphenols that are in cinnamon are thought to balance the endocrine system's hormonal response to food, which I think is really cool. That helps to keep that blood glucose more balanced. So that's the part that when they talk about balance being really great because you're not going to have that after meal crash, that's the part that's doing that for you. But the particular cinnamon that they use, the version of it, if you will, isn't as yummy as the cinnamon we're used to eating or spicing our baking and things like that with. Um, but it's better for blood sugar management. So regular cinnamon, like the kind we put in our like some of us put in our coffee, it actually helps increase metabolism. Some people put it, obviously you bake with it and stuff. It does have some benefits health wise, but the kind that we use actually has a greater benefit. And then I loved the mulberry leaf extract because it serves its purpose in two ways. And I love that it's native to China, and I love that it's really very popular because it's the only food for silkworms. So it's really important for our silk production. And also, obviously, there's mulberry leaf tea, which a lot of people love. So those are the two main reasons that people know about mulberry tea leaf. But we use it because it has that two different ways that it helps with our carbs that we get from that largest meal of the day. So it inhibits those enzymes again, that one particular one that you see there, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, in your small intestine. And it's going to keep it from breaking those simple sugars down to monosaccharides. And when they get down to the monosaccharides, that they are easily absorbed. So that's the big thing with this particular part of balance. It also reduces the intestinal absorption of glucose. So it does two different things. So we're kind of double dipping on that particular ingredient. Again, whenever I talk about the ingredients, you guys don't feel like you need to memorize this or even be able to say it. I could take this, excuse me, this slide away, and I probably couldn't spit all this back out there. I could give you general ideas. My geeky brain could probably tell you the 4 ingredients. I could probably tell you the things that stuck out with me, but I'm not going to be able to sit here and give a lecture without these slides. So don't think that I have any special talent that you don't have. It's just that I remember some of this stuff. It just sticks with me. And then when I go back in and prepare these for you guys, it's just, to me, it's really fascinating. So I dig a little deeper, but don't feel like you need to memorize all of this. So who should use the product? This again is from our own back office. If you want to have healthy blood glucose levels, I mean, who doesn't? I think that's super important for overall health. Anyone who wants to slow the negative effects of carbs and sugar in your diet, and we'll talk a little bit more specifically about that in just a second. Anyone who wants to reduce post-meal lethargy, or that crash that you get after the meal. And then anyone interested in weight management. I mean, that's just one of probably the biggest reason somebody uses Balance or Block is for the weight loss benefits. It is suggested to take 2 capsules with or before your largest meal of the day. They don't suggest more than 2 capsules. One of the things you'll see if you look at any of the back office information on a Balance and Block is that, especially with Balance, it's really not going to be beneficial. And they don't want you using it as an excuse, like I said at the beginning, to just eat as much as you want indiscriminately. So I just think this is kind of fun trivia because before I got involved with Plexus and people would bring other supplements to me, one of the things I noticed about most carb blockers is they don't necessarily just block carbs, and they don't necessarily just block sugars. They block a lot of the vital nutrients as well. So one of the things that I was super excited about with this product when it first was launched, and also with Block, was that neither of them block vital nutrients, which is really, really important. People, I think, lose weight in a very unhealthy way when they go to extremes. And one of, I think, the things that happens is when they start taking these carb blockers and cut all the carbs out to begin with, and they're still taking carb blockers to get rid of whatever little bit they may be taking, but they're also messing with the proteins and the vitamins and the minerals from their diet. So I think that that's a really important thing and a fun fact. So how are they the same? So they both have all of the normal things that all of our products we can say are free of: the preservatives, the artificial colors, the flavors. They don't have sugar or anything like that. both are gluten-free. They are, some of them we can't say are dairy free, but we can say that both of these are nut, soy, yeast, and dairy free. They're non-GMO and they're both vegetarian. Neither of them, again, block the absorption of beneficial nutrients, so they're the same in that way. And they both have basically the same goals. Okay, they both want to help you block up to 48% of the carbs and sugar, keeping your blood sugar as balanced as you can, and helping you in both weight loss, but also in overall health. So, what are the differences between them? This is the first bullet will tell you the differences between the two as far as ingredients. Again, Balance has 4 ingredients. We've already talked about those. Block contains 3: brown seaweed blend, white kidney, which is also in Balance, and chromium. So we're all familiar with chromium because of Slim. So again, that's going to help balance your blood sugars as well. The biggest difference is that brown seaweed blend. And what I was told by the scientists at convention was that they removed the brown seaweed blend when they made Balance because it upset a lot of people's tummies and people had to stop taking it. It was beneficial because brown seaweed has a natural source of iodine. So somebody who has low thyroid function and is struggling with weight loss and is going to use one of these products, the block is going to be super helpful for them because it's going to be a source of iodine, which is really helpful for the thyroid. So they didn't want, I think, want to completely get rid of block and just have Balance. I think there is a whole population that this serves really well. In addition, Balance was developed not only as a product to have the similar carb and sugar blocks or benefits as block, but it has more benefit for maintaining the blood glucose levels. Obviously, chromium is going to help that a little bit with block, but not as much as Balance does. Now, block is different in that you can take it 2 times a day. You take 2 capsules with the meal. It's really important to take block with the meal because it doesn't sit in your system. It goes right through your system. So it's going to go with your food out of your stomach into your large intestine. So it's really, really important to take with food 30 minutes before or with your food. Whereas Balance, anytime for, general purposes, obviously best time is 30 minutes or while you're eating. And then that last bullet just basically says a little bit about the form of iodine that is in block that comes from the brown seaweed. So here's the fun part. There's my slide that I didn't complete. I started seeing patients this afternoon and totally got distracted after my lunch break. So obviously I've already talked about one of those. If your person doesn't have thyroid issues, they really can take either, unless, of course, they really struggle with that crash after a meal or they get upset stomach from the brown seaweed. Anybody who comes to me that has low thyroid, I start them with block. And if they don't tolerate the seaweed well, then we can always move to Balance. But I want to give them that benefit of the iodine if I can, or iodide, which is the actual form of iodine that's coming from the brown seaweed. Other than that, I really don't think there's a problem with using either for anybody. I think it's a really great product for overall use on a daily basis. And block is one of the ones that you could just use as needed. Like you could just take it like you're having a big pasta meal or you're having a birthday celebration. Whereas Balance is really meant to be taken every single day. That's another difference that I didn't think to put on that slide. But what I would say is that I think it's a really great product for weight loss, but I really think, and this is definitely off-label talking here, and probably not compliant. So keep, kind of keep it in your back pocket. But I think this is a really great product, and I have a lot of diabetics who use it as needed, block that is, when they want to just be able to have that birthday piece of birthday cake on their birthday, or they want to go out to an Italian restaurant with their family and they just are worried that it's really going to mess up their blood sugars. So they keep block on hand just to use in those moments because most days they eat really well because they have to, but they want to be able to splurge every once in a while. So I don't know that that would be something I would necessarily advertise, but it is something that I talk to people who are type 2 diabetics. I have a type 1 diabetic who uses it that way, and it's really very helpful for her. So I think that covers all of like the differences in recommending. Would have really liked to have had it on the slide, so I knew I didn't forget something. But before I turn it back over to Angela, I'm going to stop screen sharing and make sure that there weren't any questions or answer any questions that you might have before she does her magic. Anything for me before I mute?
Hi, this is Mary Ann. I have a question.
Marianne.
Hi. So if that you have a type 2 diabetic that has uncontrolled blood sugars, that has very low lows and swings very high highs, like I'm talking 40 to 400 in the same day.
Oh,
Between the two, which one would you recommend?
I'd I'd be super cautious with either. Um,
Okay.
I think I would choose balance over block because I think you're going to get better. It's interesting because we use chromium for blood sugar balance in Slim, but the cinnamon is really an amazing ingredient for that. And I think that if I would only want them to take either of them, Marianne, if they take it with a meal. I'm
Right.
afraid that if they took it outside of having a meal, they would crash, that their blood
Mm.
sugars would just go super, super low because they have that tendency anyway. Um, I would rather like explore the reasoning behind why their blood sugars are so extreme. I mean,
That's
that's so
exactly what I was thinking because I have
hard.
one like that, and I have the same kind of thought process is trying to figure out why that's happening.
And that's very hard on your body. I mean, that's going to do a lot of organ damage. And I feel like you're that person is being set up for vision issues and all kinds of stuff. That's when you start seeing some of the diabetic neuropathies, and you start seeing the circulation issues. And they take a toe, and then they take a half a foot, and then they take the foot, and then they go do a below the knee amputation because they just can't get it under control. Um, so that would be my biggest thing. And I know that's off topic of balance and block, but I would, sometimes people need medication. And even if it's, temporary, but is it their diet? Are they not compliant? Are they on medications and they're not compliant? Do they drink too much alcohol? Do they eat too much processed foods? I mean, there's just, or what's going on with them
And
metabolically.
I think that's such a good conversation that came up. I'm actually glad that Marianne brought it up because speaking to ambassadors, I think that there is room to fit this conversation in really quickly. We we often feel like we want to solve all the problems of all the people that come to us. And we feel like, because we've seen all the testimonies and we've experienced the things ourselves, I must have the answer to 99% of them, right? And it feels like that, but we don't. So when people come to us and have those concerns, and then we're not quite sure, this is what I want to just give you guys the confidence, which interestingly is a topic that's going to come up about the book that I'm going to talk to you about tonight. But that confidence that sometimes you're like, my gosh, do our products maybe not do what I thought that they did? When really sometimes it is just a matter of, like Lisa just talked about, we don't know everything. And if there's one thing I've learned over 9.5 years in this company with these products, working hard with people, is that very often you don't know everything. And as you ask those questions, and as you begin to learn that there's other pieces of the puzzle, I don't want you to feel like you're doing it wrong or you didn't serve that person the way that you should have. Do you know what I'm getting at, Lisa? I'm sure you could say this more concisely than I could, but if you could just like from your wisdom and give them some of that confidence about, sometimes we feel really stressed out that we don't know how to make it work for somebody. But again, because we don't know all the pieces of the puzzle.
I couldn't say it. I think you said it perfectly. And
Oh,
I think I learned this as a social worker because not everybody, you don't know all the pieces of the puzzle. They can tell you one thing, they can tell you what their diet is, they can tell you, or what, they want you to think their diet is. But you really don't know unless you're following them around all day. And you can't save somebody if they don't want to be saved. And Marianne, I'm not referring to your person at all. This is a totally different conversation in that respect. I mean, I'm not accusing them of being non-compliant with their meds or their diet or anything like that. But I think it is important, and Andrea or Angela brought up a really good point. We have to give people permission to be responsible for their own health. But I think it's important for us to have those conversations because I have these in my practice and I have these with my Plexus customers as well. These conversations of just because you're taking a supplement doesn't mean that you can go eat whatever you want or never move your body or get crappy sleep or whatever. I have that almost on a daily basis in my practice because we talk about the neurology controls everything in the body, and you need your neurology functioning at 100% of its potential. But even if it is, that doesn't mean you can go eat McDonald's every day. You know, you'll be better off if your body's functioning at 100% of its potential if you're eating McDonald's every day, but you're never going to reach your potential if that piece of the puzzle is missed. So I think it's really important for us to step back and not take on the world when we have a new customer and feel completely responsible. They are responsible. But I think we also are responsible and sometimes forget for having conversations outside of just take your supplements. Ask them how much water they're drinking. I mean, and don't ask them, are you drinking enough? Because they're going to say, yeah. Ask them how much. Ask them to track it. Ask them what they're eating. Ask them to keep a food journal for 3 or 4 days, not just one day, but 3 or 4 days at least. Ask them how often they go for a walk or what do they do for exercise. Get specific questions answered or specific answers to questions. But also talk to them about, like, have you had this conversation with your medical doctor? What do they think about these highs and lows? Have they offered anything? Well, they offered medication. Well, are you taking the medication? No. Okay. Or yes. Okay. Are you taking it all the time? Are you being consistent? It's just, I think it's important to think that, to have these conversations with people and make sure they know that this is not a magic bullet. So I probably just went off on a tangent
No,
too.
no,
So
I think it was really good. And you actually highlighted something great. Thank you so much for all of that. Thank you for all of your wisdom. And you know what, guys? I know that some of you are thinking, it sounds great. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to have that conversation, how to ask those questions. I know you are. Here's what I would love to throw in there. The way that Lisa can probably ask those questions is probably going to be different than the way that I do it, because people are going to come to Lisa in a capacity where they're kind of giving her permission in the first place because of her background and because of what she does. They're giving her permission in the first place to kind of rattle off those questions, right? The rest of us don't always have that sort of space in somebody's mind or in their life. Does that make sense before I say the next thing? So when I have those conversations, I go about it a little bit differently because Lisa mentioned, don't just ask people if you're drinking enough water because they're going to say yes. I've always said that because that's what I found is that people always say, oh yeah, I drink tons of water. And then when I started to say, you know what? I used to think I was drinking enough water, but then I started tracking it and I found that, right? So a lot of what I do is go, hey, you're probably already doing this, but I'm just curious about X, Y, and Z so I can put some notes down so that I can just kind of get an idea of like what the situation is. So I start to have a conversation that's a lot more casual and not in a clinical way. We don't ever want to put ourselves in that position anyway. I know Lisa knows that, but I have to be really careful that I don't slip into that zone where it seems like I think I have that sort of clinical partnering with them in a different way. I'm just going to say, this is what I've learned works well. Or I've learned that I've had some customers that we found they were doing this, but they weren't doing that. So all the suggestions that Lisa gave you, I kind of frame that with, this is what I learned about me, or this is what one time happened with a couple of my customers or friends or whatever. And it makes it a lot easier to ask those questions and have them receive it well and be partnering with you. And like she said in the beginning, handing that responsibility back to them. Because my thing is, I'm always pointing people back to, hey, I'm here to tell you what I know. I'm not the expert on your health. I'm not your doctor, but I'm going to tell you what I know. I'm going to tell you what I've learned. I'm going to show you some solutions that we found for some people in that situation. So it just keeps it a lot cleaner and easier. And it keeps me on an even keel where I feel like I have confidence about what I'm saying and how I'm helping people. So, all right. Thank you for that question. And so I'm going to switch over to screen share. And I think I need to make it full screen because we learned that when I don't, nobody can see it. Oh, great. I'll lose you all because now I can't see any of you guys. All right. So I did actually do a little PowerPoint that I thought was fun. I don't know how to change the pages now. Probably when I tap. Oh, there they are. There's the change the pages. I thought I'd be funny and name my portion of this, where's my motivation? Because as simple as this topic seems to be, we talk about being motivated all the time. I found that when I started to read or listen to this book called The Six Habits of Growth. Am I saying it right? Yes, The 6 Habits of Growth. This is by Brendan Burchard. And he also did, what's the name of the other book? I'm going to change this. I think I put the name of his book up there. Oh, some of it. We already talked about balance. Look at that, Lisa. I had a screen for you. We'll come back to this one. We're going to skip ahead to mine right now. Okay. The other book that he did, High Performance Habits. That's what it is. I knew I had a note somewhere. So he did High Performance Habits, which you've probably heard about. This is the 6 habits of growth. And the subtitle is Get Unstuck and Create the Life of Your Dreams. And I thought, oh, okay, let's read this one. He's got a great reputation for being good at teaching people about how to have success at really big dreams, at really having big goals, setting big goals and achieving them. And really what he does is for decades, he has studied and taught many people about the key factors of those that have great success. But what I thought was cool is that he really broke it down in a way that is a lot more digestible and a lot more actionable, which is always what I'm looking for. If you cannot just tell me the concept or the pie in the sky thing, or just tell me you should be doing this and kind of, give me the headline, but not tell me how to do it, that's not as useful to me, because if I'm struggling, I probably don't really know what to do with that once you say it. I probably need those micro steps. So this is what I think he did really well in this book. So the 6 areas that he dives into, number 1 is motivation. Number 2 is focus. 3 is confidence. 4 is energy, which is a really interesting topic. It's not what you think. I mean, it kind of is. Number 5 is purpose, and number 6 is leadership. And so he deep dives into every one of these areas. Tonight, I'm really only going to talk to you about the first one, because I think that it's so incredibly important. And I don't have the most organized brain when it comes to figuring out how to lay this stuff out, okay? But what I did is I took the first one where he talked about motivation. I made a bunch of notes, and then I said, well, these are the things that he really centered on and focused on, that he said we should be honing in on this stuff if we ever want to be able to have sustained motivation. And so this is my hodgepodge. This is basically what my brain looks like. So you're welcome. I pulled it apart and I tried to look at it and put it on a graphic. This is why I struggle with PowerPoints and graphics, because I have so many words in my head and I don't know where to stop it. But one of the things that he talks about first and foremost is that you need to have a morning routine. So we're going to dive into that in a minute. But he really talks about, before any of these steps get put into play, if you're not managing your mind and what you're thinking, it really doesn't matter what your goals are, because you may not believe that the thing is possible. And he spends a lot of time talking about what happens in terms of, so how, have you ever found yourself going, I just don't know if I feel motivated to do the plexus thing or to go after the whatever goal. I don't know if I just feel motivated to do it. What is probably true is that you don't really believe it's possible for you on some level, because he said, if you don't think it's possible, you're never going to be motivated to make it happen. And I was thinking, okay, yeah, because if I was like, I got to get motivated to get out to the store and do my grocery shopping, would I do that if, especially if it's on a cold day or a wet, coat and shoes and all the mess and getting out there? Would I do that if I thought none of the stores are going to have what I need, or that the stores are going to be closed and then I can't get to them, or that I don't have the money in my bank to buy those things anyway? I'm not even going to be motivated to go to the grocery store, frankly, if I don't believe that that end result is attainable. And so he really makes this very clear to you and makes you think about it. So a lot of times, if we're just struggling with, I want to get to this end result, I know that's what I want, and then you start going, oh, they say be motivated, and they say to be consistent, and they say to have focus, and they say to do all these things, and you're trying so hard to do them, but the piece we've missed is you're not going to be motivated. You're not going to do the hard things. You're not going to push through the struggles if you don't believe it's possible, if you don't believe it's possible for you. because you may believe it's possible for other people, but not you. And this is something that I thought, man, if somebody only gets and listens to like the first 3 chapters and really only sinks their teeth into the motivation part of this, I think they're going to be able to change a lot of things. The other thing that he talks about is about sort of minding your circle and your people. And he talks about re-engaging a positive peer group. I felt like this was really important because for him to say it means, he's not really usually dealing with network marketing companies in general. I mean, he just goes to big corporations and companies and you name it, and leaders of what have you. So it's not necessarily network marketing companies that he's talking to, but what it says to me is this is a common and a typical problem, or he wouldn't be talking about it. Is that sometimes we can just get talking to the wrong people. So if you're only engaging with yourself and you're negative and not and pessimistic and you're not being optimistic about what's positive for you, that's a problem. Go find a positive group. Go find an optimistic group that's making things happen. But if you did find a group and maybe at the time you thought everybody in it was happy, positive, moving forward, can-do attitude, and then at some point it just kind of turned sour and it just became sort of a complaining and well, nice for her. That's never going to happen for me. If that's the group you're in, get out. Like just completely get out of it. You don't have to dislike the people. You just have to say, this is not where I need to be because it's not helping me move closer to my goals and the life that I want to live. And so I just need to take a step back and engage with the people who are thinking along the can do. How can I make it happen? How can I figure it out? What are the things that you're doing? I think that when I first got into Plexus, I was really excited to be surrounded by people that were like, I did this and I did that. And I was like, I probably wouldn't do it that way, but high five, you go, girl. I'm going to do it this way. Just that alone was exciting, but people were doing things and making things happen. And he talked a lot about, or a little bit about, we can see this when you see adults get to this, a lot of times, place in life where they are just accepting what is, they're complacent, they no longer are out there trying to change the world. It is what it is. This is my lot. I work to Friday so I can get to the weekend, and I run out of money earlier than I run out of month. Like that just becomes what's typical for people. And he said, but you don't see that with college kids. With college kids, they're surrounded with this hub of energy and what are you going to do to change the world? And we don't have to lose that. I think you know that when you have been part of something like, Plexus for long enough, that you don't have to lose that belief and that enthusiasm. But one of the really important things to recognize is that if you are not surrounded by people that are thinking that way, behaving that way, moving in that direction, you're probably not going to get caught up in it. And I don't remember exactly what he said, the exact statement, but it was something like, this fell into the writing your goals and look at them daily. He kind of tied these together, that it's so important to actually put your goals down. And it really spoke to me because I don't do this. I realized I am really lacking in this area. He said he goes into his office every single day and spends 5 minutes thinking about the things, looking at his actual board where he's put down whatever it is that he's working on. He spends 5 minutes at the start of his day, at the start of his workday portion, because we're going to move over. As you can see, my little quadrants are not organized because I've jumped from the top right corner to the bottom, and then we're going to go over to the left. So we're going to kind of make like a backwards circle. But he talks about visualizing that. And one of the statements that he made was, in connection to that, you also have to be talking about the things that you're trying to do. And sometimes you got to be talking about the things and engaging in the conversations to think about how to accomplish them and to decide, you know what I mean? Like you've got to be in those conversations. You've got to like put yourself in the place where you're thinking about it, you're talking about it, you're looking at it, you're starting your day going, here's what I'm trying to do. Getting that stuff on paper, getting it on a board. Which brings me to, I just threw these on here randomly. I really could have put them in order. Which brings me to, he said, it's really, really important to have a morning routine if you want to have the motivation. And he spoke to something that I think we've heard, 50 different ways said to us, which is that a lot of times, I know you've heard Jules say this many times, a lot of times people believe that I will be motivated when good things start to happen or when the success starts to happen. And we're like, no, 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 that's not how it works. You do the things, you do the consistent stuff, and then you start to achieve things and have success. And you've got to have the confidence first to create the success. And then the momentum is happening and you are caught up in the motivation that you have created, and that sustains your motivation. So it just kind of happens a different way than you think. But he said none of that happens, or you are not able to maintain it when you're talking about burnout, which will be the last thing I chat about here. You're not able to maintain it if you don't have a solid morning routine. And he said it comes down to 3 really basic, really important things, is that you need to spend some time on each of these 3 categories. You see a green, a blue, and a purple box sitting on top of each other. You have to read something positive in the morning. He said that is not social media. That is not Facebook. That is not Instagram. That is not getting caught up in that pattern of comparison and, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. And look what she's doing. And look at what I haven't done. And oh, look at that cute dog. Whatever it is, that's not what he means by reading something positive. He named some stuff like it can be a personal development book. It can be something that's not even personal development, but it's just, something that puts you in the right frame of mind. It can be your devotionals. He goes, it can be a letter that somebody wrote to you that makes you feel really good. And, he said, whatever it is, spend some time reading something positive in the morning. Number 2, exercise, movement. It's incredibly important. I won't go into all the reasons why, because I think we all know most of them, but he speaks to it and he makes some really good points about how important that is. I just don't have the time to go into all the details. And then the goal planning, that you need to spend a part of your day every day looking at your goals and saying, how am I going to get this done? What is it that I'm going to accomplish today? And he said, really, it doesn't matter how long you spend on each of these things. And he spent a good deal of time talking about this. That's why I put that quote at the bottom. He said 5 minutes a day on each of these is enough. Don't tell me you don't have 15 minutes a day. Don't tell me you don't have 5 minutes to stretch and move, do some jumping jacks, do something. Don't tell me you don't have 5 minutes to look at your agenda and decide what your goals are for the day. Don't tell me you don't have 5 minutes to read something positive. It's a matter of putting yourself in that pattern and changing everything. He said that, like, he made a very heavy case, like a very intense case, for that if you really want to change things, you've got to start with having a morning routine. And the reason I'm speaking passionately about this is because I don't have one. I never have. I don't know how to do it. I'm learning. So I'm learning with you if that's something that you're not great at. I mean, this is definitely like a weak point for me. I can tend to be a little bit of a wing it girl. I get up and I just, whatever's happening, that's what I run towards. I really want to nail this down. I really have some big goals and I'm like, I'm just letting them sit there. I'm not promised another month, another year, another decade. I need to make these things happen. And then lastly, he said, we have to recognize, first of all, why burnout happens and address those things, which if you listen to the book and read the book, he will give you lots of things to think about. You can get emotionally discouraged, physically fatigued, and you really have to recognize when you need to rejuvenate and regain your motivation and respark your mind. And Lisa and I were just talking, in recent weeks, they've been through a lot. Girlfriend's been through a lot the last couple months. And I said, I just feel like I need to sort of rejuvenate. I didn't use that word, but that's what I was talking about. And that was before I even started reading the book. And I went, that's what's happening. I just needed to kind of respark my motivation and to respark what I'm doing. It's just that life can sometimes take a lot out of you. And we need to not let that be the end of our goals when that happens. It's a moment. We don't have to live in it. It's a pit that we kind of fall into. We don't have to live there forever, right? So he then goes into talking about auditing your energy and the ways that you manage it. That's actually the 4th habit of growth that he goes into. And so I'm going to talk some about the 4th, 5th, and 6th one next time. However, if any of you guys would like to read this book with me, I am completely open to chatting about it, over coffee a couple of days a week. I tend to move through books pretty quickly myself. It's probably why sometimes I struggle with the book clubs, because I've moved through it and I'm on to the next book. So, but I'm happy to do that if anybody would love to talk about it. Let me see. I want to make sure I don't forget anything I should have said. One of the things that I wanted to talk about motivation is that I think we all know, has everybody here been to a convention? I think everybody that's on here with us has been to convention. I think we all know what it feels like to leave convention, and in the middle of it, and as you leave convention, you are absolutely positive that you can do all the things. There is no doubt in your mind that you can do all the things. And this is a matter of figuring out, now, wait a minute, how come when I go to convention and I believe all those things and I got the tools and I was rubbing shoulders with all the people who were doing the things, and I know she's just like me and I could do that too. And then at some point we go home and we kind of lose that. I think the answers are going to be found here, because it is that we lose motivation, and we lose it for one of these reasons. So it's making sure we nailed on that morning routine that includes those three things, making sure that we are expecting what is possible. He says, if you don't believe it's possible, you won't be motivated to make it happen. So we have to spend time every day really thinking about that, really being engaged in the right conversations and peer groups, visualizing completing those goals and getting to those places, and looking at our goals daily, our vision board, whatever it is, and then recognizing when we do need to take a step back, rejuvenate, and we're burnt out, and how to come back into it. We can rest without quitting, and we need to make sure that we learn how to do that. So I did not do justice to the first couple of chapters of this book, but I can tell you, you will learn so much, even if you only get a couple of chapters into it. And I think that is all. I'm going to stop sharing. I do have another page, and it's about kind of mapping out some of your goals, but it doesn't exactly go with what we talked about tonight. However, for 4, 5, and 6, which are energy, purpose, and leadership, actually for focus and confidence, which I didn't get too much into, that's where that chart will really come into play the most. So I'll go ahead and pull that up the next time. Did anybody have any thoughts on anything, or questions, things that we should cover before we let you go for the night? We're only in month 2 of the convention contest. And so it's anybody's game right now. You could start today and you could earn that cruise. So don't think that you are counted out just because you have seen posts about people that already earned it, because they used those double credits and they had a lot of momentum already going. That does not count you out. So I don't want anybody thinking like that. That's stinking thinking. And we need to be confident about what is possible and what we can do.
Did you know that a friend of mine is doing what's it called? Something for Diamond with Genevieve. It's a training that she does.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
Or whatever. She told them to say that, and I didn't know this, I've seen no communications about it, but any new person who starts, well, not starts Plexus, but that upgrades to brand ambassador in June will get double Leaders Retreat points for the month of June, kind of like we got last month. So like if you have a newbie, I think it's really important to know that, because if you have a newbie who comes in and they're like wanting the business, and you tell them about the cruise and they want the cruise, they can do the same thing we did last month, which I think is really, so that's cool. I didn't know that. So
I did not know that. I did not